Good morning. I'd like to call the September meeting of the WKU Staff Senate to order. The first item on our agenda are our guest speakers, Andrew Sherrill and Mindy Hutchins from WKU HR. The floor is yours.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see everyone in person, socially distanced and stuff. So, thank you all so much for allowing us the opportunity to be here this morning. Before we get started, we have a wide variety of topics to discuss today. But before we get started, I just want to simply start out by saying thank you to those of you here in person, those tuning in online, and those just simply being engaged in the work of the university. I think it goes without saying that we are most certainly working in a time of historic change, and it's really hard times right now, not only at WKU, but in our industry, in our country, across the world. And, you know, HR plays an important, what is our role in all of this right now? You know, HR plays an important role as far as continuing to advocate for initiatives and resources that ultimately will make positive impacts to our institution and to our workforce. And that's some of the things that we'll talk about today. But I just wanted to start out with a simple thank you, because we recognize that the contributions that you're making right now, which is so important now, really more than ever, are recognized and needed and are noted. So thank you all for that. So, as we get started, I guess our agenda today, we'll tell you a little bit about what's going on in our world, most notably in our department. We look a little different than we did just a few months ago, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some of the initiatives, some of the more visible initiatives that people recognize across campus. We have some updates from benefits and wellness side. Of course, this project known as compensation study that you all probably have not heard about, but we'll give some updates on that. Mindy Hutchins will actually give some more specific project updates and timelines about that. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the submitted questions that everybody submitted in advance of the presentation today. The way that we incorporated those questions, we try to keep them as close to how they were submitted as possible. There were a lot of redundant questions, so we tried to categorize them, group them together, and we attach them to the topics that you'll see slides on if they make sense. And then at the end, we just kind of got miscellaneous questions, general questions that we'll talk about as well. But there were a variety, and thank you for submitting those questions, because there were a lot of good questions, and we'll work to address those as well. All right, here we go. Current HR structure. So before, if you were familiar with our department before June 30th, 2021, we definitely look a little different now, but that's okay. We are small but mighty, and a lot of the changes that occurred after that really impacted the areas of our department with regard to retirement, benefits, our HRIS, which is our HR information systems pieces, and then also our data area. More specifically, that impacted our Aaron Heil, Candace Petty, and Brittany Wofford in those roles most significantly. Erin Heil, who talked with you all last month, she is now responsible for a lot of the day-to-day retirement administration that Denise Cornelius used to handle. She is also in transition from her previous role as benefit accounts coordinator, which now is a role that Candace Petty is taking on now. So we are truly in a period of transition. And I was just saying, our learning curves are vertical, but we've got really good people in these roles. But Candace is now the benefits accounts coordinator and takes care of all things benefit deductions, leave administration, and then also tuition waivers. So those are topics that you can bring to Candace's attention as well. Brittany Wofford still remains in her role as HRS specialist, but her role has significantly changed. In addition to her EPAF and data oversight responsibility, she has absorbed a majority of what Patty Booth used to have as well, as far as reporting data, and then also just HR security and access to personnel information in our systems. So Brittany is our point person for that. Myself, I am the interim director in the HR in our department. I also still wear the same hat I did before. So if you worked with me before June 30th, 2021, on anything, you would still talk to me about those things. So employee relations, DEI initiatives as it relates to human resources, employment recruiting, overseeing the HR operations side of things. So I'm still the point person for that as well. So even though I didn't mention every single person's name, all of our workloads have shifted significantly. So it's not lost on us that we have a lot of work to do, but our team is, again, small but mighty, and we appreciate your grace with us, but we're knocking it out of the park, and we still have a lot of work to do. So anyways, just wanted to go over that with you, and that's our current org structure. So, but don't hesitate. We have heard, we don't know who to reach out to. I can assure you, if you don't know, let us know. We will make sure that we get to the right place, and we at least know who to ask this one. All right. So HR initiatives, which one of the initiatives definitely feels like this HR, the post-visa world impacting our department as we look at new processes and try to make sure that we're as effective and efficient as we can be. But besides that, there's some other initiatives that we know that a lot of people are aware of, what's the status, besides the day-to-day, we have other projects we're working on too. And some of those things that we'll talk about: diversity, equity, inclusion, our compensation project, and then the adaptation of the performance development project that you all probably remember when we rolled out some of those pilot programs in 2019. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Last fall, the Office of Equal Employment Opportunity and Human Resources partnered together on facilitating workshops to the faculty side on best practices in the hiring process and tips to reduce bias in the entire search and screening process. That was an initiative that, really an outcome of our work on the university's DEI work group committee. And so Rob Hale was he was a part of that too, so I see Rob here. But we rolled that out to faculty and had a lot of good feedback about it. We say it was kind of like a pilot, but we were very pleased with the feedback on that. And so we have made a lot of progress in that regard, but we still have a lot of work to do. Work is currently underway to roll out similar training on the staff side. There are nuances in the search processes for academic affairs, faculty side versus staff. But we are working actively on that training, and we hope to be able to roll that out this year. So we're really excited about that. We know that's a long time coming, and we hope to have those resources up on our website as well, so they can be on demand as well. So that's coming. Compensation project. This continues to be on our to finish list. It's not just on our to-do list, it's on our to finish list. And Mindy will give you some updates about that. But this is important to complete because this is foundational to some of the other strategic initiatives we need to work on. Once you get past this, those are really the building blocks to some of the other things that we want to do. But we've got to move the needle on that, and we will. And now that we've got more of a stability in our budget office and our leadership teams, we feel that we can make an impact and get that project needle moved a little bit in that regard. But that is something that is absolutely a deliverable from our department. And then adaptation of performance development initiatives. In 2019, we started off strong on this project, and I think we even have some participants that were in the pilot program here. We did the pilot program in fall of 2019 with an anticipated rollout date for spring 2020, and we all know what happened in spring 2020. But you'll notice on here adaptation of performance development initiatives. What we found out, first, let me backtrack a little bit. We identified that after we knew that the performance management system for staff needed to be overhauled. We needed a different process, we needed a lot of different things, and so that's why we sought out to look into what else was out there, what else could we do. Some of the attributes that we discovered from our new program that we wanted to adopt consisted of things like building relationship and trust between supervisor and employees, frequent check-ins, frequent feedback, very conversation-based, multi-source feedback, Those are significant changes that in a long shot from where we were, and requires intensive training. And I think we can all agree that right now is really not the right time to roll out such a big culture change initiative. However, we are not saying that performance is not important. Performance is important now more than ever. So what we are excited to do is take some of the key components of that project and roll that out, which looks at supervisory training. We know really that supervisory training is the building blocks to performance, and that is what we need to focus on first. So instead of rolling out this entire initiative, we're going to first focus on some of the key components of that. And so we're going to kind of take baby steps with it. And we feel that that's probably a better approach overall, and will succeed. But we just recently got some green lights. We've been working with Staff Senate on some of the initiatives related to the adaptation of the PD program. And Sandra Humphreys will be heading that up as our training and communication specialist. And she'll have some updates soon related to some of the exciting things that we plan on rolling out in the coming year. So that's coming as well. Okay, here. All right, benefits and wellness updates. Save the date. Open enrollment is scheduled for October 18th through the 29th. Our benefits team is actively working on planning and communication around that. We'll have some information about what that's going to look like this year soon. So no other updates, just mark your calendars. That's when this is going to take place. So we'll have some updates for you all soon. Related to wellness, we're approaching the deadline for Tier 2 right now, but plans have already been in progress for the next wellness year, and some of the exciting things that are going on. One of the biggest things that we are continuing to do with this next wellness year is keep biometric testing optional. So it will not be required. Once again, it still is an option to do, but it's not going to be required this year, just given you're not able to do it for whatever reason. You won't be penalized for that. If you don't want to do it, then there's still a variety of other activities you can do to earn those points. Also exciting is the vitality points for the COVID vaccine. We got a lot of feedback about that. There was a lot of discussion about that. And we're excited to tell you that in addition to the 500 points that I think are the standard across the platform to get the vaccine, we're also going to be able to give over 2,500 points in addition just for getting the vaccine. So really your points total could up you to over 3,000 points. So what that looks like, and that number may be a bit arbitrary, but how we landed on it was to allow you to easily remember that if you wanted to do just 3 things to complete your wellness activities, you can. You can do your online assessment, you can do your biometric screening, again, optional, but you can do that. And then you can get your COVID vaccine and you will be done with Tier 1 and Tier 2 requirements. You've got to be tobacco free. So there's fine print, but you can do those 3 things, and then you will meet your 5,000. I have that on here. Let's see. I think it's wrong. There it is. Just a little visual, but you will be able to reach your 5,000 point threshold with those 3 things. Again, you don't want to do biometric screening. You have other options to obtain those points, but that's a really easy way to remember. 3 things, you're done, you met the goal for the year.
Hey,
yes.
If you received the points last year for the vaccine, can we use them again this year?
That's a good question. I don't really know how that works in the platform, but I can find out.
Having already had the vaccine.
Yeah, having already had the vaccine. That's a good question. I'm sure
We can check on that for sure.
Because
Yeah.
we got the 500 points.
If you got it
Right.
this year.
Right.
Yeah.
We shouldn't really look at that because I don't think you could get the booster immediately. So.
Right. But yeah, we'll look at that and follow up and see how that works. Okay, but that's just to further incentivize the getting the vaccine too. So we're happy to be able to provide that. Employee assistance program. We like to take the opportunity when we can to plug the EAP. You may know it as the EAP, Anthem Employee Assistance Program, but at its core is a benefit that really goes underutilized. But I want to just bring it to your attention, whether you have peers, coworkers, yourself, maybe you're a supervisor that have people on your team that are struggling, please remember the EAP. And maybe even check it out, maybe everybody's homework assignment, they can go and check it out and see what resources are available before you may actually need them. But what this is it's a benefit. We know stress is on the rise in the workplace between caring for aging parents, ripple effects from the pandemic, coworker conflicts, increased workloads. Don't raise your hands, but I'm sure everybody in here probably has a story to tell about any one of those topics. EAP is most often assumed that it's for mental health issues or substance abuse issues, and it is great for those things, but it is so much more than that as well. And the EAP is accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and it's completely confidential. HR or the employer ever find out who has utilized this benefit. There are resources online, and you can even call and essentially be triaged. They'll take your, they'll do really an intake process if you do call, and you can be connected with the resources that are pertinent to whatever the reason you're calling in for. But there is so much going on right now. We have continued to plug the EAP because I just think that right now is a great resource for everybody. Yes.
I was just gonna mention too, with EAP, your partner or spouse can also use it for free as well, even if they don't work at WKU.
Households can utilize the benefit. That's correct. It's confidential. You get the benefit of anybody in your household being able to use it. We have a lot of testimonials about how this has provided a lot of value. Some of those we were not able to share, but I can assure you that there is a lot there if needed. But I encourage you to check it out before you need it. And we all can play a part in recommending that to friends, peers, colleagues, and especially supervisors that may be aware of some things going on in the team as well. Okay. All right. So on the topic of benefits, so these were the categorized questions we got from the survey. One of the questions was, can use of the Preston Center count towards vitality points? Yes, it can. There's two ways that it can happen. One, Vitality has an app, so you can simply check into the gym. So it doesn't even have to be Preston Center. You can just check in. And then also you can self-report workouts. So again, if you don't have to be at Preston Center for that, but those are two examples of how you can report that activity for points. Plan for vacation time rollover. So the last communication that went out was in spring of 2020 for a roll effective 1/1/2022, rolling back to 150. I can tell you that we are actively looking at doing something different than that. I don't have an answer today, but we are exploring additional options that I think will be good. But we'll be able to share more information sooner rather than later, because I know we are at a time where people are wanting to know and plan vacations and use time. And so we know it, we feel it, our department's in that same situation. But we hope to have some answers on that very soon. So no specific answers yet, but that's coming. Will the COVID vaccine be mandated for employees? Right now, we're continuing to emphasize initiatives related to incentivizing getting the vaccine. And we hope that is as effective as any other mandate would be. So we're going to continue that approach. And as of right now, no mandates in the foreseeable future. So is WKU committed to the current retirement options with KTRS and KERS? At this time, there's no changes anticipated to any of those options. There will be a new tier within KTRS effective for new hires 1/1/2022. We still don't have a lot of information from the state yet, but once we do, we'll be sending out information related to that. But that really impacts new hires effective 1/1/2022. Questions regarding how to handle COVID-related absences. So we are continuing to encourage supervisors to manage this within their units. And by encouraging flexible work arrangements, and really at the end of the day, using PTO time as needed. So whether that's sick and or vacation, it's perfectly fine to use either or for those absences. Okay. Will a summer schedule continue to be offered like in years past? The last communication, I believe, went out last year about basically the same thing can be expected for 2022. So that's the plan. All right.
Angie, I think with the COVID-related absences,
Mhm.
some people are concerned because they may not have vacation or they may not have sick
Right.
time. How do they?
That needs to be managed in the department, but if we are monitoring extenuating circumstances, so if that, and we've been working with supervisors, so if somebody needs to bounce ideas off of, with using HRSS, we can help them do that, but it has to be managed within the department. Okay. All right. Any other questions about that? We will move on. Oh, we're already at council. Okay. So Mindy Hutchins, who is our project team lead on the compensation study, will be providing you some updates on this. I will get out of her way, and then I'll be back. So it won't be that easy. All right. Good morning. Perfect. Well, thank you all for having me as well. I've never spoken from a section like this, so this is a new one for me. With the pandemic, we recognize as a university that priorities needed to shift. There needed to be a rededication to other initiatives on campus, if you will. And so with that, we recognize that the project has lost momentum. And with that, also confusion starts to set in. And so what we want to start by doing with talking about the compensation project is revisiting the actual objectives of the study. So the first objective of the study was to determine the university's current position and competitiveness in the relevant market. And then that can help to determine some of the recommendations that are made. The second objective is to establish updated salary structures, administration, and guidelines. What we're currently using today is well over 10 years. I think it's actually getting close to 20. And so these are the two objectives that we started the study with. So the big question, will we have pay adjustments following this? And ultimately what we do know is that there will be recommendations that come from that, and that was not an initial objective of the study. And I can see why confusion sets in with that, but it's just important to revisit what the real objectives of the study were. Pay adjustments may follow, but that is to be determined. How'd you turn this in here? There we go. Oh, there's a delay, so it may go through like 3 slides now. So recognizing the importance of shared governance and also in including the university in decisions that are made and input that's given and feedback. We did have a staff compensation advisory committee, and they are still meeting about quarterly is the plan, and we'll continue to pick up now that we're back on target with the project. You can see the names here. And certainly we want to encourage you all or others on campus that if you have questions, comments, concerns, this is the group to go to. They're also a great sounding board as we go through the project and can provide real input from what the university, what they're hearing. Up to this point, they've been more of receiving information. We're providing information to Siegel. Siegel's giving us a lot of information to consider. But going forward, there's really going to be a lot more input that comes from them as far as the actual pay structure and the pay admin guidelines. I promise not to short order time. Okay, so let's talk about the timeline. We started in spring 2019, and we kicked that off with meetings with different constituent groups. The staff senate, at that time was even still staff council, were part of those groups that we met with. As we moved into summer, we worked on the essential function worksheets and job analysis questionnaires. I'm sure everyone remembers that. There's a lot of data gathering and meeting with supervisors about your jobs. Fall of 2019, we submitted that data to Siegel, and they began their actual matching within the market. So they take positions on campus, and this is specifically regarding staff. They look at those positions from a job description standpoint, so not from a title, and match those as best they can within the market. Now, within that process, there are positions that can't be matched. We have a lot of hybrid positions on campus that don't make a perfect or even 70 or 80% match with the market, and so we'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. They were able to complete that process. They submitted that information back to us, and we shared that with supervisors. And in winter, I say January, February of 2020, supervisors received that information. They were able to go through it and validate those matches. And then spring 2020 happened, and the world turned upside down. Now, at the beginning of the pandemic, and especially for those of you that were on the advisory committees, we tried to trudge and keep going. 2 weeks of letting her, right? We thought, okay, we're gonna get through this, we're going to try to keep it a priority. And just ultimately, the university recognized that we needed to change what the priorities were at that time and put the project actually on pause for a whole year. So with that, you fast forward during that time and we get to this past spring, 2021. We realized it was a time that we could start the re-engagement of that process, start re-engaging the committees. Over the summer, we were able to take those positions that were not a good match with the market and start what's called slotting those. So you take what has been marketed with, what has been matched with the market. You have outliers that were not matched. And so now we work with different groups on campus. Amber, raise your hand, let's put a lot of work into that. To try to slot those into the positions that did receive a market match. And I know there's a lot of HR speak, so sorry for that. As you go into what's this upcoming fall, you can see that we will be working on this salary structure as well as the pay admin guidelines. And then we plan for the initial study findings and the initial strategy implementation plans to start to roll out this like early 2022. Okay. All right. But what we do know about timelines is that ultimately, they're only as good as we can move as a university in making decisions. And so that's something to keep in mind, that it takes everyone, not just myself, Andrea, or HR, the whole university, to make decisions and to keep this project moving on the timeline that we want it to be. And certainly, barring any other things like spring 2020 to happen. Of course.
You said in the fall of 2019, the job questionnaire followed information was sent to school, and they began to match positions to the market.
Correct.
And I missed the next one. You said this market information was then returned to the supervisors.
They was returned to HR and we were able to hand out to the supervisors, correct?
And you sent that back to the supervisor.
Yes.
Would that be like the directors or go?
We tried to get as close to their first level supervisor as possible. Because those are the individuals that are going to know the jobs day to day.
And did you communicate with all the supervisors or just those that had?
Just those that had direct reports that had submitted the job analysis questionnaires. Okay.
While we're stopping for a second, I'll just remind everybody, a couple of our members on Zoom mentioned it's hard to hear questions from the audience. So we're going to utilize the voting to the left. Let's hold our questions until the presentation's over. That might facilitate the questions better.
Okay, sure. So just to repeat the question, she did ask at what level the supervisors received the data. We did try to work with the direct supervisors that had completed the job analysis questionnaires. Again, direct level supervisors of individuals will know the day-to-day of their people, and so that's who we work with. Okay, so as far as upcoming actions and what are we going to do next? The first big step, if you will, for me and for others in HR is a detailed review and validation of faculty staff data by these division heads. And so as information starts to come in from Siegel, we want to work with the division heads and the deans, if I do that, to make sure that it's as it was submitted, to make sure that it starts to lay out the way they see that it is in their actual area. There's only so much you can do on paper. We want to make sure that what we actually submitted is correct and valid. And within that process, recognizing that now this project has continued on as long as it has, that there's going to be job modifications that have happened because of VSIP, we have reorgs. And so we know that now there are going to be outliers, if you will, that no longer fall in where they used to. And so there will be a process of reconciliation, basically, where we can work with not only division leaders and deans, but also director levels and on down to supervisors to say, okay, we know these positions are different. Let's see how they now fit into a draft structure. And more will be coming on that. Then we will have implementation and communication plans and materials that will start to be planned, and that's some of what our advisory committees will have feedback on and start to work with us on. And ultimately, we will identify the final implementation dates and the available budget.
What we know is that we will have findings from this study. What we know is that it will potentially need budget. And what we know is that this will require a multi-year plan. I don't think any of us are, we're connected enough to know that this is not something that can be fixed overnight. And we recognize where we are in the budget. But again, if you're looking back at what the objectives are, we want to accomplish those objectives and to be able to define what the, if there is a problem, what the problem is, and then what's a plan to resolve that. Okay. So now we'll jump into the questions that were submitted. Again, we did receive lots of questions about the comp project, and we tried to put those into some themes, if you will. So the first one, what is the status of the compensation project? So we've talked through that already, but just to confirm, we had the initial assessment. We submitted that information to Siegel. Siegel has provided. We've gone through the first round of validation. And now we're looking to have some of the follow-up to our campus and to our constituent groups early 2022. Second question, is the HR director responsible for supervising and monitoring the contractor's performance, and how often is this completed? How often does the HR director communicate with Simpson Siegel? So we use Simpson and Siegel here because they're Siegel now. They were Simpson when we started the project. They have gone through a name change. The HR director does meet with Siegel at least bi-weekly. I can say as someone who witnesses it, it's a lot more often than that, but it's at a minimum bi-weekly. And then as far as who is monitoring it, there are performance guarantees within the contract itself, and there are several shareholders that review that progress and the performance within the contract. So what is the budget for increases? Will everyone get an increase following the compensation project? It seems cost of living has gone up tremendously and fast food is paying more. How will we stay competitive? So for the second part of this question, pay is one portion of total rewards. And so we recognize that, pay is a concern. And so that's part of where the study is happening and understanding and giving some definition around that. But then also we recognize at WKU that that's one piece of it. And so we in leadership and staff Senate continues to look at total rewards for WKU in addition to the pieces that are the pay itself. And we talked already a little bit about, what is the budget for increases? Are we all going to get a pay increase? That's not an objective of the study. While again, it may follow the objectives and it may be part of the plan when this is rolled out and part of the strategy that the leadership decides to follow, that was not one of the initial objectives. So it's just important to keep that in mind. How will recent job reclassifications be handled within the compensation project? So again, this is something that will happen as we go through the validation process within leadership. We recognize that with it have going on as long as it has due to the pandemic, that there have been more of those modifications. We had the choice, Siegel even suggested, maybe do we consider not allowing changes to happen on this project? And we just know as a university that it's not feasible. And so we knew from the very beginning that we would have to do some of this reconciliation. Obviously, it's more than we thought we would, but who knew what was going to happen over the last 18 months? And then finally, can it become required that any employee that has to pick up extra duties due to a vacancy for any extended period of time be compensated with a stipend? Is WKU considering creating advancement and promotion processes that do not involve posting available positions? So I can't really answer this question specifically, but what I can tell you is that a pay administration guidelines will be a direct result of a compensation study. We know, I do it every day. I know that there are different departments are doing different things and there's different initiatives and things like that. And so part of the pay administration guidelines, it will give us best practices so that we're able to have a broad transparency on campus about, how HR recommends situations like this be handled. And that is one direct result we'll have from the comp study. And then one more question before I turn it back over to Andrea, just because this is my world. When will the transition group, exempt paid semi-monthly, be fully transitioned? What is the difference in payrolls? Why are positions not paid with the same frequency? That was one of the first questions I asked when I started working at WKU. So this question is not lost on me. It took quite some time for me to realize how many payrolls we have, why we have them, how confusing it can be. And so, first of all, I hear you. Second of all, then we had a Department of Labor regulation that came in 2016, and we recognized that we had a group of individuals that would need to transition, which is where they even got this title, from an exempt role to a non-exempt role. And I'm going to try real hard not to get too far in HR weeds here, but to answer the question. So we identified those 300 individuals. We put them in a group, if you will, recognizing that at a future date, very soon, we were going to have to move them from exempt to non-exempt. Well, just like any good plan, the regulation was paused. The federal regulation was paused. How often does that happen? And so basically we became in this limbo group. And we decided, okay, we've already moved their payroll, so we know we've already done that. But let's not do anything else at this point. Let's just see, this will pass. We'll know soon how to handle this. Well, it took way longer than anybody thought it would to finally come to that final salary threshold. Once it was defined, we were in the midst of the compensation study. And so again, not wanting to do a lot of, let's move you to this payroll, let's move you to this payroll, let's move you to this payroll, because that disrupts people's lives personally. We decided in the very beginning of the comp study, that transition group, again, exempt individuals paid semi-monthly, would continue to be in this little group. We have a way to identify them, we know who they are. So we just kind of held them because part of the comp study will be looking at positions on campus to confirm classification and make sure it's correct according to regulation. And so at the end of the comp study, there is a step in that process where we will review the transition group and finally identify them with the payroll schedule that they should be. So that's a long-winded answer to a seemingly easy question, but there is a plan, and over the next several months, the transition group will go to the correct classification and payroll schedule. Now, the bigger question on this, what is the difference in payrolls? So I can't give you the history on why they were chosen the way they were. This was here well before me. What I can tell you is what they are today. If you are exempt, which means you are exempt from overtime, that's literally all that exempt means. You are paid monthly, unless you're a transition group. There's always an exception. If you are non-exempt, there are two options for payroll schedules. There's the semi-monthly and there's the bi-weekly. Why there were ever two, I cannot tell you. What I can tell you is that as a recommendation through our partners and through how the regulation is, bi-weekly is the best option for non-exempt. Okay, so semi-monthly you should pay twice a month. Bi-weekly you pay every other Friday. Bi-weekly is the best option when it comes to the regulation. So over time, and you may have experienced this or you've experienced it as leaders, when positions become vacant, rather than saying we have this population that's used to being paid current, which is another weed, now we're going to move into a lagging payroll. We don't want to do that. But as positions that are semi-monthly are vacated, we are moving those to bi-weekly. Okay? And so some of you again maybe have felt that, or you feel in your department, well, why are some semi-monthly and one some bi-weekly? That's why. Okay. Oh, that's a lot of compensation information. I nerd out with this a little bit. Andrea, you want to come up for the rest of the questions?
All right. Okay. So what is the 2% salary pool referenced by the president? We've had a lot of questions about that. There is an initiative from President Coney and the institution to create a pool of money to make salary adjustments. And that's what the pool is. The pool is going to be dedicated to making some type of salary adjustments. How that strategy is determined, we don't know yet. We don't know what that looks like. But the fact that there is a pool is good news to be distributed. However, we will find out. So that's simply what that means. There is a pool of money available to make salary adjustments in the coming year. Why does the university utilize consulting services? What is Siegel's overall role with WKU? I know you've heard a lot about Siegel, probably just as much. When you hear compensation study, they seem to go hand in hand. We have an active engagement with Siegel Consulting that consists of 2 work streams, which is our actuarial analysis needed on our health plan side, and then which any employer, any institution with a self-funded health plan will have third-party actuarial services. It's rare to have that type of expertise in-house, but that's what we utilize them for. Health plan actuaries, if you must know, are trained in analyzing very complex claims analysis, and they help with forecasting and plan management, and which is really, really important for a self-funded plan. And so we utilize them now for that. The other thing we are currently engaged with them on is the compensation project. So those are the 2 active work streams we have right now. Why do we utilize consulting services? I can speak at least for my involvement while at WKU with Siegel. Utilizing the consulting service, especially for a comp project, is very important for a variety of reasons. First, expertise, and they know the higher ed industry, they know compensation. Obviously they were competitively bid, and that's why we have them, and they have proven to know what they're doing with regard to project work like this. And so that's one reason. Objectivity is another reason we use them, especially when it comes to compensation. This is something that really is just best practice. I can attest to that from my experience in the private sector, going through a compensation study with a consulting group, and wanting to utilize third party for objectivity reasons when it comes to compensation and pay. We also use them for, to set, timeline reasons, to say you can hand off. Even the most talented staff sometimes need some help, outsourcing some of those things to help us keep projects on time with a deadline. And I can tell you that had we not probably used their services and we had done that in-house, I'm not really sure where we would be on this initiative at this time. So there's a variety of reasons that we utilize consulting services. Is remote work an option? It is an option as it is referenced in the existing policy, the alternative work policy that is out on our website. We encourage division leaders and managers within the areas to appropriately review the nature of the work that they do, the employees that they have. Does it make sense for your areas? There's a lot of nuance to this, and unfortunately it is not black and white. But we, HR, we have continued to work with areas on how to implement different strategies, especially in this environment that we are in, with hybrid work, remote work. What does that all mean? All these new terms I think 2021 has created with regard to what our traditional work schedules look like. But we, HR, will continue to partner with different groups across campus to be creative and innovative with what this looks like. But we do have an existing policy that can be adhered to as appropriate to different areas across the institution. Request for amount of funds paid to SIPSN, Siegel to date for services under these contracts. There was a request for certain contract spends. These are inactive contracts. And I've done some research into what those contracts were. They were for services ranging from actuarial analysis on the retirement plans, different from the health plan, but on retirement plans, different workforce initiatives, a range of them. And unfortunately, a lot of that work didn't come to fruition for whatever reason. We decided not to pursue those. So while we know that the amount was approved at the state level, that's not necessarily what has been spent. And so to not provide any data out of context, we have to go back through invoices and reconcile all those against the contracts. And so that's what's been done to date. So, okay. Will there be another VSIP opportunity this year? I hope not. No, I'm just kidding. No, we at this time, the VSIP that happened this past year was a one-time opportunity done for a variety of reasons. And there is no anticipated VSIP opportunity coming up that we are aware of. So the one-time event, right? What is the responsibility of HR in exit interviews? We had a couple about this with employees that leave, let's say, leave the university from a department that includes complaints of unfair and disrespectful treatment. Know you that reviewing exit interviews is an ongoing process in our department that we review those weekly. And of course, if there's anything related to Title IX, sexual harassment, discrimination, we work with our friends over at EEO and pass that information along to them for further investigation. If there's any themes and other patterns that we can see from exit interviews developing in certain areas, departments, divisions, we do share those with leadership, the senior divisional leader of those groups when we identify patterns or themes that we think are of note, good or bad, but we do share those things. So that's how our exit interview process works. Is there a policy regarding pets at work? There is currently not a policy that restricts pets at work. There's probably a lot of nuances to this question, and we would encourage working within the unit. Maybe there's concerns, taking it to a supervisor or leadership for management within. We do have a service pet policy, but not anything restricting pets in the workplace. So we would encourage you to work with your supervisor. If it's a supervisor that you may have a problem with, we reinforce the chain of command. Of course, HR can help you navigate that if it's a sensitive issue, but we wanted to try to address that as it came across. Has the university considered raising the dollar amount that staff have to go towards tuition? I believe that amount is $5,250, and that is an amount set forth by the IRS. Any amount over that is considered taxable income. So. Questions regarding safety concerns? Questions regarding safety concerns regarding COVID-19? Okay. If there, I think there were a couple of questions about this. If you feel like there's a compliance, people aren't wearing their masks or doing what they need to do to promote a safe environment, those items can be taken to either the COVID hotline, or you can email COVID, I think it's covid.health@wku.edu. You can bring those to the attention of, it goes to the task force and the group working on that. Questions regarding morale, we had a few of these, and we know, I mean, this is a multifaceted question. We all have a part to play as far as morale goes. HR, again, I think we talked earlier about, we will continue advocating for resources and initiatives that we feel positively impact our employees, our workforce, and our institution. But we continue to encourage those concerned about morale, participate in things like the staff Senate satisfaction survey, customer is it what it's called? The satisfaction survey. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. Participate in things like that. Engage with your constituency groups. Staff Senate is a great place to make those concerns known. And of course, HR is here to advocate for initiatives that, again, we feel that have a positive impact on employees and our workforce. Question regarding unit head evaluations. So there was a question about this that came up, also known as reverse appraisals. This was an initiative, at least this year, done within academic affairs. This was not an HR initiative. And since I've been here for the last 3 years, it has not been an initiative that's rolled out from our department, although I know that I think maybe it was more broadly rolled out in the past. So, but we did get feedback about that. We didn't provide that specific feedback here, but we are going to take that feedback back and share it with academic affairs. Okay. Okay, all right. So that is the end of our presentation. Do you want to?
We'll do brief questions, and we will have yes or no today. First, I want to open it up to our members via Zoom. If any of our members via Zoom have questions right now. Okay, looks like we don't. We'll have our first in-room question.
Is that the podium you want me to use?
Yep, that's the one right there.
Thanks, Andrea. It's a great presentation. Answered a lot of questions, and I know that the staff appreciate it, and probably have quite a few faculty watching this too. I did have just a couple of follow-ups. In the spring or summer of 2019, probably summer of 2019, some kind of draft, the market positions that you described that was sent to the individual departments. This was a mass document that had all of the faculty positions
Mhm.
in it,
Mhm.
was distributed from academic affairs to an advisory group that they put together. Does that document not exist anymore? If you're aware of it?
If that was a part of the stakeholder committee meetings, it would exist, in draft, all the things that we shared have been in draft. And have been given to the faculty committee. Nothing doesn't exist anymore. So, but things could have changed since that time. I probably need to get a little bit more information about it from.
Is the faculty part of the study fairly complete?
Fairly complete is a good way to put that. It does move along more quickly than the staff side, just given the nature of how jobs are classified. Typically, you have 2 jobs on the faculty side, just about right. And, yeah, and, so it just went, so. We are.
I appreciate the clarity that you all brought, that the classification comp study was never intended to bring with it a consideration for salary adjustments. That it was simply to be a standalone study on its own moving forward. I'm aware of individuals on campus who submitted requests for salary reviews, market adjustments, equity adjustments, and were told in writing that they would have to wait until the classification comp study was concluded before those could be considered. Does that, can you explain and make those two make sense?
Sure, yeah, I can. We see that. We see some units wanting to wait until results come back to see if there's any money available to make adjustments. We also see departments that don't want to wait. And there's really not a right or wrong approach to that. If we are seeing that if units have money to do things, then they'll ask us for some market data and we'll provide it. It's in the resources we already have available to us, not necessarily the market data that's coming from the study. That's something we always say. So, but it's just an approach that's typically approved at the divisional level. And that's kind of how that's done. That's all you will see, that some want to wait, some don't, and there's really not a right or wrong reason to do it.
So if a staff member requested a salary review and was told by senior division administrator that they had to wait on the salary study, then that was a decision based on that employee and not the
Or
overall.
the unit, yeah, whatever the practice that exists within the unit.
So if the unit said we were prepared to give the adjustment, then it would stand to reason the senior division head could overrule that.
Could.
Do you know who was performing the actuarial analysis of the health plan before single?
I do not.
You said the contract numbers that I asked you about were inactive.
Mhm.
Do you know what the contract is for the current
I
study?
do not know the number, but I do know I'm familiar with the active contract.
Okay. And did you,
If we pause a second further, I want to open up, make sure, just so we can share our questions, please. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Andrea and Mindy, for coming to speak with us today. It's no secret that many employees transition from one job to another at the university. Is there an opportunity for you to complete an exit interview for when you transition from one role to another? Is this a regular process?
Okay, that's a great question. It's an initiative we talked about, that we would love to be able to do, because I think there's some valuable feedback there. And again, just as important as the exit interviews are for separating employees, those that are staying with us can provide that. Sometimes it's only just a question of HR capacity to do it. That's on our wish list of things to do, along with stay interviews, if you're familiar with that. Those are kind of just pieces of a bigger package of things that we're hoping to do. So hopefully sooner rather than later. Yes, I'm on the same page as far as how that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
because we're all adult,
We'll probably have time for just one more.
I'll make it as brief as I can. Let's see, so on that, back to that contract, did you ask certain people in financial affairs for that information? I told you it would have to be required in covering invoices for.
I work with purchasing on obtaining invoices.
They're having like wait for. She may need to step back a little bit so they can hear.
Oh,
you.
sorry, the mic, that's, okay, sorry.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I work with purchasing to obtain what I thought I needed. Honestly, some of it's a learning curve for me because I thought you could simply pull a contract number and find out what the spend is, but that is not the case. But that's all I know at this point, but I did work with purchasing to obtain information.
Well, I've worked with purchasing in the past on open records requests and things of that nature, and we've always been able to pull total amounts paid contractors for responses to those, and also responses to the General Assembly when we have questions on contracts.
Sure, it's not, I'm not saying that it couldn't be done, right, I'm not saying that it couldn't be done. It will involve reconciliation of invoices since it will not reflect the accurate spend approved at the state level, so.
Oh, I agree, yeah, I agree. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much.
I'm gonna veer from our agenda just a little bit, and everyone can move up to Staff Star Award. Recognizing that we have several guests in the room. So I'll ask Cheryl to come forward for that presentation.
Okay. Our first Christopher Ware Staff Star Award goes to Miss Judy Rouse. Judy is the Administrative Assistant for WKU in Owensboro. Judy Rouse plays a vital role in serving WKU students, faculty, staff, and the community. She works with community partners throughout the Owensboro and Daviess County region who utilize the campus for a variety of meetings and conferences and ensures that they have a first-rate experience. She assists with a wide variety of projects and events and is always wanting to help in any capacity she can. She creates a positive presence at WKU and Owensboro through her servant heart and natural ability to encourage others. Mama Judy has helped students in countless ways over the years and is part of what makes WKU in Owensboro a place that everyone feels welcome. Another colleague said, Judy is literally and figuratively at the center of WKU Owensboro, looking out for every staff member and student here and cheering everyone on. Plus, every time you walk past her desk, this is important, she offers snacks. That's the reason she is affectionately called Mama Judy. I believe Judy is watching on YouTube today. Hi, Judy. She couldn't be here, so on behalf of the Staff Senate, we thank you very much for all you do, Judy. And we will get your certificate and WKU swag to you as soon as possible. So, thank you. Okay, if I can have Rob Hale, where's Rob? Okay, you wanna go over there? Our next Christopher Ware Staff Star Award goes to Dr. Amber Scott Belt, who is the assistant to the provost. Dr. Rob Hale, Associate Provost for Faculty and Academic Excellence, is here today to say a few words. Rob?
Thank you so much. I'm a weeper at public things like this, especially if it's something this big, so I apologize if I get choked up. Amber has been, without a doubt, one of the most valuable employees at WKU for many years. She manages so many complicated processes for the academic side of the house with so much competence and care. She continuously looks for ways to improve our processes to help WKU become more efficient, and even more to help us become more effective in supporting faculty, staff, and students. In the past, Amber's made Herculean efforts to transfer most of our paper files to electronic files. You would have thought that would have happened 30 years ago. This has made a huge difference in how colleges manage so many of their protocols. This summer, her multi-year effort to bring a new workload management system to WKU is finally coming to fruition, and it's all because of Amber. Black will save departments, colleges, HR, payroll, and other units a significant amount of time. I mean, processes that take days are taking hours now. And then that way we can focus on more important things besides bureaucratic bookkeeping. What else can I say? Amber's knowledge of the university is invaluable. This next year is going to be particularly challenging with all the retirements we're facing. Amber continues to pick up a lot of the slack. You know, as you know, we've had a baker's dozen of provosts in the last 5 or 6 years, it seems like. And Amber has been part of the glue that has held everything together. I don't know that our division would have made it without them. So you'll always be a star to me and everybody in our office, and I'm glad that the Senate recognizes what a star you are, Amber. Thank you.
Richard had a few words as well.
So as most people know, I've only been here 2 months. So that's why Rob is talking, because I've spent only 2 months with Amber, but I can tell you they've been the best 2 months that I've ever spent with somebody who helps you in a transition. In the process of coming here, you know, everybody fears what that transition looks like and how things will go. And the office has been great, but Amber has kept me in line, showed me the way, and helped me stay out of trouble, which is worth millions, especially for me. In addition, I watched her handle, as Rob said, incredibly complicated processes, figure out how to get units across this campus to work together to finish roles, and ultimately is the glue that does hold us together. And I learned that in 2 months, so I can't wait to spend the next, I hope, crossing my fingers. As Rob said, there's been 3,000 of us in the last 5 years. Hopefully spend the next 5 to 10 years with this group and with Amber. She's been awesome.
Next, Christopher Ware Staff Star goes to Sierra Waller, who is also a recently elected senator. Sierra is the Assistant Director for the Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning. And Kirsten Hooks from Housing and Residence Life is here to say a few words.
I'll keep it brief because I know we are going to have some other people speak on Sierra. But when I saw the opportunity to nominate someone for the Staff Star Award, I immediately thought of Sierra. Sierra's been working very closely with our team and for our living learning communities on campus, and has really added to the value that we've been able to offer to our students and to our faculty members. She came in so gracefully and answered questions we didn't even know we had, and has really been such a good resource for us on the academic side and in terms of supporting our students in a way we never would have been able to if she wasn't on our team. So we call ourselves the dream team, and I think a lot of that is because she has been able to contribute to that dream and really bring our vision forward. So I'm very thankful to have Sierra as a colleague and very honored that she was able to win this award today. Thank you.
Have Dr. Dumacek. Did I say your name correct?
Almost perfect.
Almost
Almost perfect. Marco's is fine. And before I sing praises to Sierra, who I know will be embarrassed because she does not take compliments well, and because I have to always one-up Rob, and I work with Amber, I will say, Amber, that you may be a star to Rob, but you are my sun in the moon. So, and also, please know that you have 3 dudes from Academic Affairs Provost Office, and it takes 1 woman to keep the 3 men. I'll just point that out. Sierra came to CITL about 1.5 years ago, and You started it, Rob. I really can't imagine what the center would be without her, and I don't know what we did before Sierra came to the center. And one of the amazing things about her is that she is able to create community wherever she goes. And I think Blair and Kirsten, who are here, are proof of that. Sierra's compassion, thoughtfulness, and work ethic knows no boundaries and really glues people together. And the dream team that Sierra has managed to create with Blair and Kirsten is the same kind of connection she builds with everybody else in the center. And what's amazing about Sierra is that she can talk to all kinds of audiences, and I've seen it many times. She has done an amazing job presenting to regents. She has done a tremendous job talking to faculty, and as you know, that presents its own kinds of challenges, and to everybody in the center. So even though that she's new, it really seems like she's been part of us for a very long time. And to give you a sense of what she's accomplished together with Blair and Kirsten, living learning communities have existed for a while. And what Sierra, together with Kirsten and Blair, has really been able to do is scale them up, where 600 students are now participating in these academic living and learning communities. And so what Sierra's work has really done is helped us help our students succeed academically. And she has done that through tireless work, particularly given that she was new to this initiative. And the other thing that we always talk about is breaking down silos between academic affairs and enrollment and student experience. And Sierra has been a shining example of that. I hope that the world has a lot more Sierras in the future. So congratulations, Sierra.
For Sierra, but okay, great. Sierra, you want to come on up to this picture?
I'm sorry, I'm not a crier.
We're like mission accomplished.
All right, get back on track. What's my spot on our agenda? With officer reports or?
The Monday meeting.
Oh, minutes, okay. So I know we've discussed our meeting minutes a little bit. Just before this meeting, we said the latest update. Totally respect that people may not have had time with traveling here to review those. But are there any questions about the meeting minutes right now? I'm happy to discuss them, please. I'll repeat your question for you. I'll try. Let me know if I get it right.
Is there an issue with putting in the minutes that the proposals came?
The question is there an issue with putting in that the proposal was given to the president? The answer from my point of view is no. I just don't want us to exclude that it was given to all of the co-chairs to the Rand Budget Executive Committee. So if you have to pick between the two, we need to pick the. I'm sorry?
Were they in the meeting with you?
No, do you think it would be a better communication to say that there were two communications, one in the meeting with the president and one that was in a follow-up email with all the chairs? Would that be?
If that's what happened, yes.
That's fine. That's fine. So does that sound like the one edit that's we need? Okay. So I'll ask that we approve the August monthly minutes with that edit by unanimous consent. Hearing no objection, minutes are approved. Thank you. And then our next item will be officer reports. I know real quick. So for the chair report, on August 5th, I attended the Regents meeting. That wasn't by any special invitation. That was just, I had some free time on Friday morning and hanging out in the boardroom seemed like a really great idea. It was a nice short meeting. We held our staff senate executive committee meeting the second Wednesday of the month. In that, we prepared one item for discussion with the president. In our following week, third Tuesday of the month meeting with the president, and that was referenced today during the HR presentation, but it was for information on if any decisions have been made yet about the 2% pool. And at that time that we discussed it, no decision on the makeup of that pool had been made. Did a Topperfest. That was an event that concluded master plan and also celebrated faculty and staff. I know I've got to see several of you there. Several of you on Zoom were there. It was a nice event. Fireworks were really great. It was a good time. And I learned a lot in the last 2 days about minutes. And I'll ask that the university committee help me with that a little bit more and how we need to structure those at your next meeting. That's it for the chair report. Vice Chair?
I have a question.
Uh,
Did you say you were not able to follow up on the appointment? President, or
I-
you had no response?
I didn't say, but reports aren't debatable. If you'd like to bring that up in other business, we can follow up with that.
Okay.
All right. Connie?
Can you hear me okay?
You guys hear her okay? I'll sing them.
She said send out.
Okay, would you mind to use the lectern, please?
Okay, the workforce committee met earlier, we discussed some of the goals and ideas we wanted to complete. We are going to work with HR in the next year to work on the onboarding process. We feel that's something that needs to be evaluated and looked at so that new employees have set guidelines. So we will be meeting, hopefully I'm gonna set a meeting with them next month to discuss the onboarding. And also we discussed how important it is, or the networking of university employees. And that was even mentioned about the different silos and how important to have networking channels, maybe opportunities for supervisors, office associates to have places to get together and maybe ask questions. So those are 2 initiatives we want to work on. We definitely want to partner with HR. Sounds like they have a lot on their plate, but we are going to work on that. Also, I know the announcement was made, we had our 2 winners for the book scholarship, so that was announced. And then also, so far with the project mentorship, which is the initiative to pair new employees with mentors on campus, we were able to get 8 matchups. So we have 8 mentees that will be meeting with their mentors, hopefully establishing opportunities to ask questions about WKU and just kind of have those resources available. So those 2 things are done. So if you are a new employee at WKU and wants to reach out, just fill out the application on our website for the mentorship, and we will get that taken care of. That's it.
Emily, would you mind to go next?
Sure. For the treasurer's report for September 2021, as of August 31st, the E&G index had a starting balance of $3,668. There were disbursements totaling $285.10. Those consisted of 3 different purchases. One was in regards to Aramark of $147.04 to purchase lunches for the mentor-mentee program. There were 2 additional purchases, one for $67.98 with Amazon and $70.08 with Hobby Lobby. And those were to purchase frames in regards to the Chris Ware presentation that we had last month, and for the Chris Ware Staff Star Awards. The WKU Foundation account had a starting and ending balance of $1,135. The College Heights Foundation account had a starting balance and ending balance of $1,386.40. We have authorized 2 fall 2021 book scholarships. For the Budget and Finance Committee report, the BEC proposal regarding staff representation has been approved. In regards to the Employee Benefits Committee, this was noted in Andrea's presentation, but the biometric screening will continue to be optional for plan year 2022, and you will have all year to do so. Thank you.
Rachel, would you mind?
Regarding the Christopher Ware Staff Star Award, we have come through a unanimous decision that we will not accept nominations from family members or spouses. Thank you.
And Julia, do you have a report? I know you're, okay, no report. And Anthony, no report. And am I leaving anybody out?
Say I agree to.
Dave, you have no report, was that? That's right, okay. He messaged earlier and said no report, sorry, but thanks for, that needs to get the minutes that way, so thanks for getting me on that. Next item is listed as announcements. The only announcement listed is our next meeting, which will be held in, I believe, and now, for now, we'll plan it in the same format of a hybrid meeting, back in this room, issue 2021, October 13th, which is, a different Wednesday than normal, and that's to accommodate fall break with the schools. And then we'll still be at 9 a.m. for committee meeting and 10 a.m. for this meeting. Does anyone else have any other announcements that we need? Okay, move on to other business. So I'll open the floor for senators to bring up other businesses this time. Happy to entertain it.
I just have a question.
Okay, Deborah has a question.
Here, particularly what you said
That's
about
fine.
the meeting with the president, and the topic of the meeting.
We can't hear.
I'll repeat it. I'm just letting her finish. Sorry. Okay. So that's in reference to the August meeting, right? With the president. Okay. So the question is in reference to the August meeting between the staff chair and the WKU president, if we discussed at that time our proposal for the BEC adjustments. Yes, and that was it was a follow-up. I think the email confirming it came the week before, maybe just either during or just after our staff and executive committee, and he just acknowledged that it had been approved by the other chairs as well. I think that's the only thing we discussed related to the BEC in that meeting. Okay. Any other business? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Rachel Cato made a motion. Looking for a second. Peggy Crowe made the second. And